Back with Tom Haberstroh on the Good Word. Tom, 3 weeks left in the season. Some of the races are locked up, but I feel like it's almost in tiers, right? Number 1 is locked up in the East, but then there's 2 and 3, and then there's 4, 5, and 6. Like there's just, and that's just in the Eastern Conference, and then of course the play-in, it looks like it's already set. But how do you see? And I'll just assume that 3, 4, and 5 in the East intrigue you more than anything else in the Eastern Conference, right?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to avoid the Boston Celtics, you want to get that 3 seed rather than the 4. So Cleveland is in the driver's seat at this point, but they've been dealing with injuries all season. Their resiliency is underrated. Their ability to lose Evan Mobley or Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, it hasn't seemed to matter. So they seem to be the most injury-proof of those teams. Now, if Jalen Brunson goes out or anything like that, the Knicks are in a big problem. And OG Anunoby, he's got the elbow issue. I was working that Portland Trailblazers game when he aggravated his elbow injury, and Thibodeau, in Thibodeau fashion, was like, "Yeah, you stay out there." And I was like, "Man,
play."
Yeah. And I can't. Nick Friedel's got it. I don't think we can both. We can't compete with Friedel. But the idea is Thibodeau and like back in Chicago has a reputation for riding his guys right into the postseason, no matter what. And you're going to see it here with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby. I think Cleveland's got this. I think they got the number 3 seed, even though if the Knicks are healthy, I prefer the Knicks over the Cavs in a series. And I think the Knicks are better than the Cavs. But I think that little jumble right there, I think it's the Cavs in the driver's seat.
Look, Cavs, Knicks, Magic are 1.5 games back. Like they won't have necessarily the urgency to go after 3. Like they may want home court advantage, but this is where Orlando expected to be. You know, kind of on the edge of the play-in. If we get home court, fine. But I won't say they're happy to be there because I don't think they're going to just go out there and get swept by whomever they play. But this is at a point where you're 70 games in, you're kind of playing with house money a little bit. And with the Knicks, we just haven't seen a full healthy product since the trade deadline. And with Tom Thibodeau, you're never going to see a full healthy product at any point in the season. Those dudes are banged up in training camp because Tibbs is probably running some shadow thing in July. You know what I mean? Like we don't know about. Get DraftKings on that. Now, 6, 7, and 8 in the East. I think the Heat, and producer John is probably cringing right now, but I think the Heat should desperately be trying to get to 6. Yeah. I wouldn't want them to be anywhere near the play-in, and if I'm the Bucks or the Celtics, I wouldn't want them anywhere near me. But them getting to 6 would require consistency that they haven't played with all year. The Pacers are there, but you haven't seen Tyrese Halliburton be the full version of himself post-All-Star break. I'm going to say post-All-Star breaks, post-hamstring injury. And then with Philly being a game and a half back, you don't know when Joel Embiid is going to come back. You've heard different rumors at different points and different times, but nothing is definitive out there. How do you see 6, 7, and 8 shaking out?
I think Miami has this. I think they got the 6th seed. When you look at the remaining strength of schedule, the Miami Heat have the second easiest strength of schedule in the NBA going down the stretch. They've got a couple games against Toronto. They got Wizards. They got just an easier slate. And you know the Miami Heat, they can always do Undertaker style, sit up in the coffin. Just when you think they're dead, they rise from the ashes and make a run. But I don't think that this team wants to do that again. I think they are going to prioritize getting that 6th seed and not have to deal with the play-in yet again. And their schedule is soft. Look, they had to win that game against Golden State. That was a bad loss, but I do think that I have more confidence in the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler nabbing that 6th seed than I do the other 2 teams on this list. And I do not think Joel Embiid will return this season. Just my personal opinion. I think that this is a situation where I'm not going to I will believe it when I see it, when Embiid comes back and what kind of shape he is if he does come back. So I'm just writing Joel Embiid off. And if he comes back, great. But I don't think you should have any expectation at this point that he is going to be A, back, and B, performing at a high level.
And even if they were to get out of the play-in, they haven't shown me the playoff bona fides for me to be afraid of them at 7 or 8. playing against 1 or 2. Now, to the Western Conference. 1, 2, and 3. You got Denver, OKC, Minnesota. 3 different levels of objectives here. You know what I mean? The Nuggets are clearly the best team. The Nuggets are the championship favorite unless someone does something stupid, which I haven't seen through 70 games. Do you see it as the Nuggets having the 1 seed to take if they want it? Or do you see the Thunder or Timberwolves going and trying to take it because they will prioritize it?
OKC needs that number 1 seed. They need everything on their side because they don't have that playoff experience. But if they have home court advantage in every round going through the Western Conference, that's going to be huge. They are not as good, nearly as good on the road as they are at home. And Chesapeake would be popping for this team in the playoffs. So if they can get that number 1 seed, especially if in a matchup against Denver, you're going to want that extra game. It's not everything. Most series don't go to 7 games, and most series you do not get to enjoy that home court advantage in terms of just sheer numbers. Yeah, it's better to have the opening 2 games on your home floor. But the thing about the Denver Nuggets, Vinny, they got a home court advantage no matter what because of that altitude.
Right.
Even if they're not playing more games at home than on the road, that altitude is so big in a series that I think they're cool if they have a 2 seed or a 3 seed. Minnesota, man, I think they're in the same bucket as the Thunder. They need everything on their side to overcome the playoff inexperience. But I think number 1, OKC should try to get that number 1 seed. Obviously, if the guys are banged up, don't play them. You don't want to, throw the baby out with the bathwater and just try to win a random Tuesday night game at the expense of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander long term. But I do think OKC, it's more important for them to get that number 1 seed than the other 2 on the list.
And if OKC runs into the Lakers in the first round and you got old Lakers against light in the pants OKC, let's just say we might not be spending that much time in Oklahoma City in round 1, even if they get the first seed. Here's the thing. The atmosphere for the games is excellent. It is, what do you do during the off days in Oklahoma City? That is not a dare. Don't dare me, y'all. I promise you. That's not a dare. That's not a challenge. Don't tase me, y'all. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Now, 6, 7, and 8 is really intriguing to Tom because Tom has a take on the Phoenix Suns. Dallas is in the 6th spot. They won 5 straight. They kicked the doors off of the Sacramento Kings last night. The Kings are a game back, but they own the tiebreaker over Phoenix, tied with Phoenix. Both are a game back. So what is your Phoenix Suns take here? Because I feel like we're going to put flames on the screen after you're done talking.
I think they're going to miss the playoffs, straight up.
Really? They're going to slide out of the play-in?
I think they are in dangerous territory here. Listen to their final 10 games here, Vinny, down the stretch. Okay, we're talking Phoenix Suns, right? They're 8 seed right now. They're 2 games up on the Lakers, but the Lakers have the tiebreaker over the Phoenix Suns, which is big because the Lakers, if LeBron comes back, they're playing at this level,
right?
They can overtake them. So I'm not locking in the Lakers, even though they're 2 games back. They have the tiebreaker over the Suns. Now listen to this schedule, okay? For the remaining 10 games on the Phoenix Suns schedule, they're going at Denver, at OKC, at New Orleans. Then they come home to play Cleveland, Minnesota, New Orleans, and then they got a back-to-back with the Clippers with travel in between. Then they go finish the season at Sacramento, at Minnesota. Did you hear a bad team on that list? Now, you can say Clippers by the way that they're playing recently, but there is not a single non-playoff team on that list. They are playing 10 teams with at least 12 games over 500 in their record. It is by far the toughest schedule. The remaining schedule is the average team is like a 53-win team. The average team is basically a 3 seed, right? So you've got that, and the fact that they've lost the tiebreaker to the Lakers already, and you have Bradley Beal getting hurt again. This time he was out with his finger. I feel like if they get down to the 9-10, if they fall out of the 8 spot, this is a Phoenix Suns team that was, for many people, picked to be the favorite out west because of that big 3. I think there is a much higher chance than people are willing to say that they're going to miss the playoffs entirely. I'm not saying they're going to miss the play-in. I'm saying they're going to miss the playoffs entirely because right now it's looking like 9-10.
That would be disastrous if such a thing happened. Like, You brought it up and you said it's a ambitious thing with those big three, and they've gotten as good as you could expect out of Grayson Allen and out of Yusuf Nurkic. Kevin Durant is still a reasonable version of Kevin Durant. They just seem to have these late game. When we say late game, they seem to have these fourth quarter disasters where
they lose to the Spurs.
You lose to the Spurs without Vic. No, you don't just lose to the Spurs. Yeah. You lose to the Spurs without Big Vic. I can't name a player worth a damn on the Spurs outside of Big Vic. And I know they got, Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell. Like, I'm kind of joking. But
point taken, Vinny. Point taken. You don't have to say those guys' names. We know what you mean. You're playing who they play for with the Spurs is a lot harder than you think. But continue.
No, it is. It's just to the point that it's really, really a disastrous thing. Now, do you give much credence in the Houston Rockets of Ime Udoka, who at some point we're going to have a conversation about, but we don't know how to discuss a gentleman like Ime Udoka in such flattering terms? Do you think they will catch Golden State? Golden State had a big win against Miami last night. They had a big second half. Klay Thompson back in the starting lineup, albeit for probably a short period of time. Stephen Curry, while he played 30 minutes, and they ended, they won by 20. I'll be damned. It's the weirdest thing, and it's the weirdest coaching quandary in the world. But do you think, because that feels like that's the last one left, I don't think Golden State is going to catch the Lakers at 9. I think we're basically set. I'm going to be on an airplane to go to California for the play-in tournament, unless the Houston Rockets decide that they're going to take Golden State out. Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen. It's a great story. Jalen Green is looking like Vince Carter out there, like prime Vince Carter with his shooting and with his off the dribble and his bouncer at the rim. He's been outstanding. I think a little bit of it is soft scheduling. If you look at this run that they're having, it's against some cupcake scheduling. So I do think that they're going to hit a wall a little bit here. But Ime Udoka is coaching these guys up without Şengün. I don't think anyone thought that they had this in them. No. But they're doing an excellent job. And I think when you look at the Golden State Warriors, yeah, they've had a couple really bad high-profile losses and some back and forth with Steve Kerr and Stephen Curry resting down the stretch. I just think they're in the driver's seat. And Houston, while it is a nice little run here they're making, I think the Warriors make this play-in team.
I'm not so sure. That's all I'll just say. I am not so sure. I don't know if I believe in these old guys. I think when you have like 10 or 12 bad losses, you can wind up having 3 or 4 more. That's all I'm going to say. If you got 10 or 12 bad losses, you can wind up having 15 or 16.